Colorado, and more specifically the Denver metro area, can feel pretty complicated if you've never been here before or experienced it. And so today, what we're going to do is we're going to cover 3 main topics that you need to know if you want to become an expert on the Denver metro area. Let's go. If this is your first time watching, Pete Sweeney here with your core family, and what we like to do on this channel is cover Denver and all of its surrounding cities, covering the good, the bad, and sometimes maybe inappropriate, truly being the boots on the ground for any of you who are not familiar with this beautiful state. So if that's something that you'd like to continue to follow, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, hit that little subscribe button and the notification bell. We are posting 2 videos a week to help you out as much as possible. Also, if you are planning on purchasing a house in the state of Colorado, licensed real estate agent here, helping out so many people just like yourself with all your real estate needs. So we're going to throw that phone number in below, right there. Go ahead and give us a call, give us a text. Doesn't matter day or time, we are there to answer your calls. We're going to be doing something a little bit different in this video today. Instead of doing a vlog style video, we're going to do a map video giving you the ultimate guide that you need to know in regards to the Denver metro area. So what are we going to cover? What are those 3 topics? We're going to be covering pretty much major roads or transportation in the Denver metro area. We're also going to be covering some of these major cities surrounding Denver, along with a few smaller cities that might be surrounding those other large cities. And last but not least, we're going to be talking about cost of living. So this might be a great video to get a notepad and a pen, really take some notes. You may be pausing and restarting this video over and over again to make sure that you take the proper notes in order to take in all the information from this ultimate guide. All right, let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to pop the screen up right now. If you watch any of our other videos, we constantly talk about the main veins that run through the Denver city, and that's going to be I-25, pretty much going straight from north to south right here, and then also I-70, which is going to be right here. There are 2 main highways that go across each other when you're kind of going through the Denver metro area. There are some other means of transportations in the area that we really want to cover though, because you're not always just going to be using I-25 or I-70, mainly because it gets super congested. There's some back roads, there's some side highways that you could take that are strictly dedicated to certain areas. So the first one I really want to cover, and we talk about this all the time, is the Denver metro area pretty much boundary, right? And that's 470. And so if you look at 470, pretty much if I go from the upper northwest side all the way around right here, right there, that is your tollway. That is the paid portion of 470, and that's actually called E470. Now C470, the free part, that pretty much goes through Highlands Ranch, Littleton, Lakewood, that's going to continue on to the west side of drawing pretty crappy right there, all the way to right there. That is the boundary that we consistently talk about when we're talking about the Denver metro area, and that's just something that we've put on ourselves. Of course, some of the Denver metro that we are actually going to cover today goes outside of the boundary. That's a good rule of thumb, right, when we're talking about the Denver metro area. Now, there are talks right now, and I don't know where it's at. There's some legislation happening between Arvada and the city of Broomfield, but there's talks about expanding 470 along this side, connecting over here. That way it completes the circle. But the thing about it is you have a lot of land, a lot of residential area right through here that you're going to have to really take over in order to continue that highway through there. The big thing about 470, it's a super popular highway in regards to going to DIA, Denver International Airport, which is this one right there. And so if you're on the north side, obviously you could take it pretty much all the way to there. If you're on the south side, you could take it all the way to there. So that's a good means of transportation. Let's kind of talk about some of those other side highways that you talked about. One of the other big ones, and I feel like a few of these cities, Boulder, Aurora, and even Commerce City, have a dedicated highway that runs strictly, it seems like it's dedicated strictly to going either to that place or through that city. First one we're going to talk about is I-36, which is this one right here. And that one goes directly into Boulder, and through that you're going to pass through some part of North Denver. You're going to go through Westminster, Broomfield, all the way up through Superior, up into Boulder, and then at Boulder is where it pretty much terminates. We're going to talk about another highway, which is 225. That one I call it the Aurora dedicated highway, and that's going to run right along in here. And that one's going to run right through the center of Aurora, north side of Centennial or Greenwood Village. And so that's going to be your highway if you're really wanting to access that Aurora area. Now, it's a small highway where we're talking about 270, which is going to run straight down through here. My lines are getting a little convoluted over here, so hopefully you can still see this. I'll clear the screen soon once we kind of talk about a few of these areas. We'll say right now that 270 gets crazy congested. I feel like it doesn't matter what time of day, it's always congested, always backed up. Every now and then you will find those points of times where, you know, it might not be as congested as it is, but for the most part, gets pretty congested. Another highway that we're going to talk about is 76. It goes from the southwest all the way up into the northeast. And so when we're looking at it, what happens is 70 pretty much branches off and starts to go northeast. And so it goes like this and all the way up to here. And that's how you access, you know, all the way up into Brighton, Lockbuoy, even into Commerce City. Some of those areas right there, that's what 76 really accesses. And another thing I really want to mention is we always talk about the light rail or commuter rail system here in the Denver metro area. Now let me go ahead and clear this map. When we're talking about the light rail station, you have Union Station, which is pretty much the central hub for the light rail or the commuter rail system. And so if you're right in here, that's where your Union Station is at. When they first started building this light rail system, they were really focused on the southern Denver metro area. And so Lakewood, pretty much Highway 6, which is like right around here, they built a ton of stations along there. They have a lot of stations that kind of go down here, and pretty much they have all kinds of, I think they have a total of 5 different lines that go south, but they're all really dedicated into kind of this southern Denver metro area. Now they have a couple lines that are running more north now, but they're not as established as your southern lines. And so southern lines, so you have like a couple lines that go into Arvada, and actually that's wrong, so it's actually more like this along I-70. And you got a station here in Old Town Arvada Ridge Station, which is a little bit further west in Arvada, and then Thornton is really the prominent one that's taking a bunch of these stations on. And so in Thornton, you've got a station that's right here, up in Eastlake, you got a newer station that's going in up here, you got 104th, you got one that's kind of northern Commerce City down here, and so Thornton is really taking on a lot of those new light rail stations that are going on up north. You do have one that's going up more here in Westminster as well too, and from what it sounds like, there's plans that eventually it's going to run all the way up into Boulder. Currently you have the Flatiron Flyer, which is like a bus system that mainly goes between Boulder and then Westminster. It's not on this map, but probably like right in there. Of course they have future talks, because even up to into Longmont would go all the way up into here. Draw a little arrow for you. It's up that way. They actually enacted a tax in Longmont to get this light rail system up in Longmont, and it's, I mean, we're talking probably 20-30 years out until that actually happens. But Longmont's a little pissed off the fact that they've been paying the taxes to get this light rail all the way up there, and they haven't seen anything showing signs that the rail system is going to be going out there, outside of the fact that now it's kind of coming more into this northern Thornton area. Another thing I really want to go over in regards to our transportation, our road systems here in the Denver metro area, is now where before, you know, this was always the tollway kind of going around right here. Now what they have done is they incorporated our HOV lanes into a toll lane as well too. So if you're traveling down I-25, the far left lane is now an HOA lane that has the same transmitter that you use on the 470 highway system that's surrounding the Denver metro area. They also have an HOV lane that they put in going up to Boulder on 36. And then they recently enacted a new toll lane. So if you are going up to, because if you want to go up into the ski resorts, that's arrows the wrong way. Let's just kind of do whoop. Not the best artist. It's actually Chelsea, so I should have had her draw on this. They're installing a toll, and actually some of it's already in place, going up into the mountains. That way you can get up into the ski resorts, because I don't know if you've ever experienced I-70 going up into the ski resorts in Colorado, but it can get crazy congested. It doesn't matter if you want to leave at 5 in the morning or 7 in the morning. You're pretty much super backed up with all the traffic that's going through there. Everyone trying to go up and have that fun up into the mountains. Let's break into the second topic that we're talking about. Initially, I called this the best cities according to niche.com. The only thing with niche.com, they sort of incorporated, you know, certain areas that weren't necessarily a city. It was just a name of an area that we constantly call it. For example, Cherry Creek. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of cover some of the major cities. I will kind of note that there's a few of these cities that are rated highly. When we're talking about niche.com, when they throw that grade out there, what's incorporated into that is, you know, your schools, your housing, your nightlife, diversity, certain things like that, and Niche puts a grade on that. So all the ones I will mention, there are a few on here that are from niche.com, some of the top rated spots to live here in the Denver metro area. Let's go and start southwest of Denver, and we're talking about Aurora, Colorado, right here. And Aurora has popped quite a bit lately, so there is a lot of established area in Aurora, kind of, you know, pretty much in this area right here on the other side of 225. That was your old Aurora, where now you have Buckley Air Force Base out here, and you have a lot of newer development that's happening all along here. And since you have 470 right there, that's why you are able to kind of build out there without being too far from the Denver metro area. And so you have all your new development is pretty much happening out here, even down, you got Smoky Hill and all that area covered down here. That's where your new area of Aurora is. Now, if you're in Aurora and you're on that far side, you're probably easily looking at 30 to 40 minute drive over into the Denver area. And like I said, you could either take 225 over to I-25 north. Let's go ahead and clear this up so you can see what I'm doing. If you're in the central area, a lot of people will do is they'll take 225 north, take I-70, and then I-25 down. If you're looking to access the airport and you're not kind of on this eastern side, you'll typically take 225 out, and then I-70 east, and then Pena Boulevard up and over to the airport right there. Or if you're down in this area right here, you'll just hop on 470 and you go in right there. I'm gonna go ahead and move counterclockwise so we can kind of go all around the Denver metro area. We're not heavily focused on just one certain, whether it be north, south, east, or west. One city I really want to mention that we don't really talk about often just because it is more of your rural area, not so much your city life, is Bennett, Colorado right here. And Bennett, Colorado is blowing up. You have a ton of development happening out there, a bunch of brand new houses. And so I have a feeling that Bennett right here is gonna blow up like crazy over these next 10 years. If you're looking for a city that's gonna have some high equity growth, this Bennett right here might be a good choice right there. When we're talking about the Commerce City area, you got your older portion of Commerce City, which is kind of in the southern portion. And then many times, if you haven't checked out our Commerce City video, we talk about Reunion, which is the newer part. Reunion even doesn't like being called or mixed into the whole Commerce City conversation because it is so much different up there. We're talking about a ton of master plans up there, a bunch of brand new development, all new shopping centers. And so that's kind of your north side, Reunion, right up in there. That's what you're looking at when we're talking about Reunion. If you're looking at driving down to Denver from Commerce City, kind of the southern portion right here, you could easily get there in probably like 30 minutes. If you're looking in more Reunion area, it could take easily 45 to an hour just because you're so much further out. I know on the map, it looks like these two are so close, but Reunion doesn't really have that direct highway going straight into it unless you want to take 470, the toll, all the way to I-70 and then take that straight west into Denver. All right, let's go ahead and clear this up because another city that we haven't talked about in a while, but it's blowing up like crazy is up here, and that is Brighton right there. Now Brighton used to be kind of your farmland area. Whenever we thought about Brighton growing up is your 4-H club. My family actually had a farm up there, and so anytime we wanted to get away from the big city, go out pet all the farm animals and do the whole farmland style thing, we'd always all go up to Brighton, where that's changed dramatically. A lot of that farmland is now getting built on. In fact, the family farm that we had growing up as a kid now has 470 running right through it. And so it's kind of cool. If you ever go back there, you kind of still see the red silo standing in place, and I think the barn is still there, but the house is torn down. But every time I drive 470, I was like, oh, there was the family farm that I had growing up. Brighton's growing up like crazy, and pretty much what you have is you have Old Brighton and then you have New Brighton. Old Brighton is like off Highway 85, so if you're coming from this direction, so let me actually clear this. So here's 76. If you continue this way, that goes on to 76. But if you go this way, it turns into Highway 85. And this is where your older portion of Brighton is going to be. That's where you're going to have your old farm style houses, much smaller homes than as opposed to the newer side of Brighton, where the new side of Brighton hugs 76 over here. With the highway being right there, that's why all that newer development is happening in Brighton. You have all those new master plans that are happening, all those new marketplaces. And so if you want the newer portion of Brighton, that's going to be this area over here. If you want the older portion where you have, a lot of that old character, those old farmhouse style houses and the old Brighton downtown, then you're going to want to stay a little bit further over here. All right, let's go ahead and jump on to our next city. And we're going to be talking about Thornton, Colorado. And that's right here. Now, Thornton is booming. It's actually one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing city in the state of Colorado right now. It is crazy how much it's growing, how much it's developing. I remember I had my senior prom over at the Adams County Fairgrounds, and we took 120. So pretty much the rule of thumb back when I was in high school was north of 120th, there really wasn't much there. There was a few developments that were riding the north side of 120th, but it was all super dark, just open land. There was just really nothing out there. And so when we were traveling out to go to our senior prom, we're like, what is going on here? Why are we going in the middle of nowhere to have this dance when we actually live in Westminster, which is kind of this area over here? So it was kind of crazy going out there. It used to be so dark. It is a completely different story today. Thornton is blowing up like crazy. Let me clear this map right here. When we look at Thornton right now, we talked about 120th. North of 120th is going to be all your newer developments. We're talking about from the 2000s and newer. And so if we could find, I'm pretty sure 120th is right here. So then you got Southern Thornton, which is kind of in this area right here. Those are all your older homes. You know, majority of them are built more in the 70s and 80s, and so that will still have that older style house in there. Whereas if you want the newer style house, you're going to be looking more up in this area right here, North Thornton. And that's where all your newer, you know, master developments are. Top Golf actually is just right up there. That's where your Top Golf is. And if we clear this, you got your Denver Outlet Mall, which is right in here. And then if you go across the highway, so Thornton's pretty much on this side, and then you got Westminster on this side over here. Clear that out. You've got an outdoor mall just right across the street from your outlet mall, right over there. And so you have two malls that are right next to each other. The North Thornton area is what's really blown up. Like I said, since you have a Top Golf up there, you have a Costco up there, you have a bunch of brand new marketplaces. Thornton is just developing like crazy on that northern end. And in fact, they kind of saw that there was a need for some refreshing in South Thornton, so they've dedicated a large portion of their money to revitalizing that south, which isn't a bad area by any means, but it's great to see that Thornton's like, all right, you know, we've been dedicating so much time and money to this northern Thornton area that we need to focus a little bit on the southern part as well too. That way we make sure that the city is beautiful all across, just not in one area. One thing I say about Thornton is they are great when it comes to having events that are ran in the city. So they have like Thornton Fest, they have the 4th of July celebration, they have, you know, something on Christmas where they build like a little village, they build a village for Halloween, so you can kind of walk through, makes it almost like a little haunted house. And so Thornton does a lot of those great things. Like I said, we love always spending time in Thornton. There's so many great things to do if we ever want to bring our kids. If it's a city that you're really not too familiar with, we have done a few videos on it, so I highly recommend go checking those out and see what you think about the Thornton area. All right, before I go into the next city, how are you doing? Are you taking your notes? Are you kind of taking this all in? I know this is a ton of information. I know I could get talking super fast, so I'll try and slow it down. If you feel like this video is providing so much value, why don't you go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Let us know how much you like this video. Even throw a comment below if there's some things that I'm missing about these cities that you'd like to know. All right, let's go and break on to the next city, and we're going to be talking about Broomfield, Colorado. Now, Broomfield, whenever I think about Broomfield, I think of it as your ultimate suburbia, where even the older portion of Broomfield, there really isn't that much of a downtown, and so they built like Arista, which is right off the highway, right over here. You got the Metropolitan Airport right there, and so Arista is just right near there. You have the First Bank Center. It's a great event center where they have concerts, they have lacrosse games, they have a lot of great things that you can do in that area. So that's where they kind of built their downtown, where Broomfield before was seriously, it was your ultimate suburbia, and it still is your ultimate suburbia. In fact, one of the most popular master plans in Colorado right now on the north side of the Denver metro area is Anthem, and Anthem is huge. So if we look at the map, I mean, we're talking about like this, pretty much this whole area right here, and even some of it comes up and rides Highway 7 right there, because this is Erie up in here, and so it rides that whole area right there. And then another huge master plan that's really popular right now in Broomfield is Baseline, which is heavily being developed right now, but it's trying to trigger more that rural downtown Broomfield area. They do have it down in Arista, but on the north side, they're really trying to incorporate that rural, that urban, not rural, that urban style living up in the northern side of Broomfield. It's supposed to be this huge thing. We're talking about hospital systems. We're talking about a ton of stuff for the kids to do. Community parks. It's going to be great. I'll throw some B-roll up. That way you kind of get an idea of what's happening over in Broomfield. All right, now we got to talk about the beast. The beast that we talk about on the northwest side of the Denver metro area, obviously, is Boulder. This is the beast right here. This is the driving factor for so many people who are relocating to Colorado. I say Boulder, Denver, Colorado Springs, or whenever we're talking to you guys, having people who are relocating into the Denver metro area. Now with Boulder, you have a few cities that are surrounded that I really want to mention. So Superior, which is kind of right here, because Boulder and Boulder County in itself, pretty much the people who don't want to pay the prices of living in Boulder, which we're going to cover towards the end of this video when we talk about the cost of living, is they want to go to a few of these surrounding cities. So you got Superior right in here. I know it's not showing it. You got Lafayette right here. Louisville, same thing, it doesn't show the name, but you got Louisville right in here. And you got Erie right up there. So these are some cities that people really go drive to, and we actually just realized that Erie's not growing as fast as it was these last couple of years. It might be because the cost of living started to skyrocket, majority of that being your housing. Now, a big reason why Boulder is so popular, I think, it's not only is it a college town, but it also hugs the mountains. And so you have all this playground all up in here to play in. You got the Flatirons up there, you have Chautauqua Park, all these great hikes, all this great outdoor activities that you can do in Boulder. And since it is such a desirable place to live, the housing prices will reflect that, and we'll cover that a little bit later in this video. The next city that I really want to hit on is Arvada, Colorado. Arvada is another one of those cities. This is actually my hometown growing up, Arvada. I lived right near Old Town Arvada, which is kind of on this portion right over here. And you kind of looking at this map, the reason that I know that it's right there is it's right where 76 and I-70 connect. So you got 76 coming in from this way, and you got 70, and pretty much right there, let me clear this map so you can see what I'm doing. Right there is where you got Old Town Arvada, and that is blowing up like crazy, so much so that the road that used to drive through Old Town Arvada, they now closed it off ever since COVID, and they decided to keep it permanently closed, so now it's a walkway. They made that whole area, you know, like a shop, eat, live style living right in that Old Town Arvada area. Now the thing about Arvada though is it is growing like crazy out here on the western side over here. And so you got neighborhoods like, you know, Layden Rock, Five Parks, the Candelas, all these brand new master plans that are happening up in this area right up here. And so that's going to be your newer portion of Arvada. Another new portion of Arvada is if you ride 70 right here, is right along here. And was it that we brought up in that area right there? That's right, there's a light rail station right there. So with the light rail station, they're building, you know, townhouse or row home style housing all throughout. That way they have access to that light rail station. That way they can take it down into the city of Denver. All right, let's go and hit on to the next city, and we're going to be talking about Lakewood, Colorado. We've actually covered the city a few times in a few of our videos, so if you haven't seen them already, maybe I'll throw a link in here or there or somewhere. That way you can check out a little bit more about Lakewood. So Lakewood, Colorado. The funny thing is, growing up, I always thought that Lakewood is a lot smaller than it really is, but Lakewood is another one of those booming cities. It's weird though, because I feel like the east side of Lakewood feels like it's a portion of Denver, and then you look at like the west side and it feels more like Golden, where it's more in the foothills, you know, super hilly. There's really no flatland at all over there. The majority of your new builds are going to be in Lakewood, Colorado, whereas like, let's separate right here. This is kind of the older portion of Lakewood. And then this is up in here, it's going to be your newer portion of Lakewood. And right along, so we talked about 470. So if we go right along here, the foothills is right here, guys. And then right here is, you know, your bigger mountains and stuff. I'm sure my circles are way bigger than it really is, but just kind of giving you an idea. Let me clear this out. And so you have a lot of new builds that are stretching all along the highway right there, and that way they could be close to the mountains. There is a racetrack over here though that a lot of people are complaining about, because you have all these brand new houses right here, and Bandimere sometimes it gets super loud, and so a lot of people complain, you know, when they have those drag races going on into the evening or even all through the day, the noise. The thing about it is Bandimere saying is, hey, we've been here, you guys decided to build right up to us, so it's not our fault that you guys are complaining about the sound. We'll see what happens with that. I know there's been a few attempts to kind of shut Bandimere down because of that, but it's still going strong, and it's a great place to go if you want to bring your family. Next city that we're going to be covering is Littleton, Colorado, right here. And Littleton actually reminds me a little bit of Broomfield, where it's your ultimate suburbia, where even the houses that were built in the 70s and 80s, great suburbia areas, great master plans, and now they are incorporating a lot more newer housing. And so you got King Carl down here, but down here, like south of Chatfield Reservoir, you have a bunch of brand new housing going over there, where it seems like this area over here was a little bit more established before, you know. And so there are some new builds going in there. There are still some attached living, you know, you got your condos and townhouses that are still going in over there, but I feel like the focus for Littleton is really right in this area right here for all your newer housing that's going in Littleton, Colorado. Next city that we're going to dive into is Highlands Ranch, which is right next to Littleton. Sometimes you can get confused whether you're in Littleton or Highlands Ranch if this is the first time visiting Colorado. And Highlands Ranch is going to be right in here. And Highlands Ranch, this was like the hot spot when I was growing up. This is the new kid on the block that everyone wanted to live in. It had all the new housing, and so the majority of the houses that really blew up, I'd say in the 90s and even the 2000s, that's when Highlands Ranch really started to blow up. And so it doesn't really matter what portion of Highlands Ranch you go into. A lot of the houses are newer, you know, they might be, you know, at oldest, you know, probably 20, 30 years old, but it's still a nice little area. A lot of people, what they like to do, because I forgot to mention this in Aurora, is they like to commute over the DTC. When we talk about the DTC, is the Denver Tech Center, and so you got the Denver Tech Center kind of right in this area right here. And so a lot of people who are commuting over to the DTC for a lot of your tech jobs will live over here in Highlands Ranch and commute straight over there. And I feel like the DTC actually extended a little bit into the east side of Highlands Ranch. Let me clear so you can kind of see. Kind of right into here, because you got like a new Charles Schwab building over there. You got your IKEA right in here. So I feel like the DTC just kind of kept filling in and going in a little bit further down there. But yeah, it's crazy, like growing up Highlands. Everyone was like, oh, you live in Highlands Ranch. It's the new hot spot to be. Everyone wanted to be there. It's still a great city to live in. And the thing about Highlands Ranch is you got these foothills all along here. And so they're literally just north of all this kind of, actually, let me clear this. Right there. Because you got a canyon that goes through right here for this highway. And then like over here, it's going to be all your foothills. You know, you have some great camping areas up in there. You have some really nice houses with land that are kind of filling in this area over here. Now, I'm going to throw a bonus city in there because I actually didn't have this in my notes, but we're going to talk about Parker, Colorado, because there's actually been a few of you who have been interested in Parker, Colorado, kind of wondering what it was. This is another one of those cities that was just small town living that's starting to become a lot more popular because of that Castle Rock effect, right? Instead of living in all this congestion up here in the city of Denver, might as well just live here, have a 30-minute drive into Denver, and kind of have that peaceful setting for your house. Parker's been blown up like crazy. Brand new master plans that are kind of go in. Every time I go down there, I feel like it's a new building, a new marketplace that's going in. So Parker's blowing up. It's another one of those areas that you might really like if you work in the city of Denver, but you want to get away from congestion to wherever your home is. Final city that we're going to kind of cover is Centennial Greenwood Village area right here. The reason that they've blown up recently, like I already mentioned, is the tech center right up in here, right? The tech center, with that, it kind of expanded outwards, and Centennial was right here on the east side of it, and so Centennial started growing like crazy. Another great city. I feel like on the east side is kind of where you're seeing a lot more of that newer development happening in Centennial, and so it's really concentrated in this area right here for a lot of your newer development. All right, now we're going to break into the third topic, and we're going to be talking about your cost of living. And so the way we go about cost of living is, I believe it's Best Places or bestliving.com or some crap like that. One of those sites, what we like to do is we look at, the point system they have in place, where 100 is your national average. If it's above your national average, then obviously it's more expensive. If it's below, then it's cheaper than your national average. Colorado as a whole is a 120.5. Now let's go ahead and cover Denver right here. So Denver as a whole is a 127.8. Now let's go and talk about housing, which is the highest contributing factor to that number, why it's above your national average. You're looking at a 183.1. Next city we're going to cover, and we're going to kind of go in the same order that we did last time. I'm not sure if I'm going to get every single city that I covered in the tutorial of all these cities, but let's go ahead and break into Aurora, Colorado. And Aurora, if you're looking at your cost of living, it's at a 118.9, which this, guys, is actually going to be the cheapest city to live in when we're looking at these cities surrounding the Denver metro area. If we're looking at the real estate, it's at a 149.1. All right, now let's break up here into Brighton. Brighton, looking at the cost of living, it's at a 121.3, so just a little bit above that Colorado cost of living. And if we look at housing, you're looking at a 155.8. The main reason that's driven up is mainly because of that east side that we talked about, that hugs I-76. You have all those new master plans going in over there. Those home values is what's really kind of raising that cost of living up. I'm going to throw a bonus in there, something that I briefly touched on, but we're going to talk about Bennett, Colorado. Just so it gives you an idea, if I want to live in rural Colorado, what am I looking to pay and still kind of have that commute? You're still looking at like a 45-minute drive into the city of Denver. But if you want to live out in that rural area, what are you kind of looking at for cost of living? Cost of living, you're looking at a 111.8, so almost 10 points lower than the Colorado average. And if you're looking at purchasing a home there, it's right at 125.9. All right, let's go and cover the next city. And the next city is Thornton, Colorado, right there. And Thornton, Colorado, overall cost of living is a 122.9. So another one that's just slightly above that Colorado average. But your housing is a different story, where it's at a 160.3. And the housing is heavily driven because of this northern side of Thornton right in there. All right, I'm going to clear this map so you guys go ahead and see all these other cities I'm going to be drawing in. Next city we're going to be talking about, which I already discussed, is Broomfield, Colorado, ultimate suburbia right there. And Broomfield, Colorado as a whole, you're looking at a 134.4. And if we're looking at the housing, looking at a 197.8. So far, this is the most expensive spot that we talked about. Prior to that, it was Denver. So Broomfield, because it's the ultimate suburbia, because of that Anthem area, the housing prices are definitely higher. Next city we're going to be talking about is the beast, Boulder, Colorado. And if you thought housing was expensive in Boulder, wait till I get to that one. So overall, Boulder, Colorado's cost of living is a 167.6, and you're like, all right, that doesn't seem so bad. Wait till you hear the housing. The housing in Boulder, Colorado is a 322.6. So 3 times national average cost of living in Boulder. That is insane. So many times, and every time that we cover Boulder or even talk about these outlying cities that are close to Boulder, we always mention how expensive the housing is in Boulder. And that's why so many people are taking advantage of Louisville, Lafayette, Superior, even up into Erie, so they don't have to pay for the price point of Boulder. And I guess I forgot to mention Longmont. Longmont's another one that people take advantage of, living in Longmont, but still want to be close to Boulder. Next city that we're going to be covering is Arvada, Colorado right here. And Arvada, Colorado as a whole is a 131.7. And if you're looking at the real estate, it's a 191.1. And that is heavily driven by this northwestern portion. Actually, so this is Stanley Lake right here. This is how I kind of know. And so the portion I was talking about, your Layden Rock, your Candelas, Five Parks, all that area is right up in here. That's what those housing prices are heavily driven by. Although I will say that a lot of people who want to live in downtown Arvada are paying a hefty price for some of those older houses that they're then converting. They're popping tops, adding additions. But Arvada is very good about keeping the appeal in Arvada so that it's not a bunch of modern houses. If you're going to do those things, they want the appeal to be similar to all the older houses that are surrounding the area. All right, next one we're going to talk about is Golden. And I actually didn't cover Golden when we were talking about all these other cities, but Golden is right over here. Golden is like... It's one of those cities that it's another college town, right? And so you have the school mines out in Golden, Colorado. It's like a smaller Boulder, where Boulder was the super hot spot to be, and now Golden's starting to pick up on that, and the cost of living and housing prices is going to reflect. So Golden, Colorado as a whole is a 149.5, but the real estate is a 254. So that comes in second, right under Boulder, that we've gone through already. But Golden is a beautiful city. It's situated pretty much, in between the foothills right over here and then your bigger mountains right here. So a lot of people who want to, live and play where they're at, that's why they decide to go to Golden. All right, let's go and cover that next city. We're going to be talking about Lakewood, Colorado. And Lakewood, Colorado, cost of living is a 129.9. And if you look at the housing, it's a 186.2. So not bad, it's about midway compared to a lot of these other cities that we're kind of talking about. Now let's kind of break down to Littleton, Colorado right here. Littleton, Colorado's cost of living is a 137.5, a little bit more expensive than Lakewood. And if you're looking at housing, it's a 214.9. So what does that come in? I think that's third, if I'm keeping track right. Third in regards to housing. And like I said, they have some great houses there. All right, let's go ahead and cross the highway. We're going to go from Littleton over in Centennial area right there. What is Centennial's cost of living? You're looking at a 134, and if we're looking at housing, it's a 201.3. There are some beautiful homes over in Centennial, Colorado. A lot of people who decide to work in that DTC area are really kind of living in the Centennial area. That way they have quick commute just straight northwest, I guess a little bit, over to DTC wherever they're working. All right, guys, hopefully that was a super helpful video. I know we covered so much. I hope you got some great notes. Of course, if you have any comments or any questions in regards to all this stuff that we already covered, go ahead and throw us a comment down below. We have a ton of videos that are covering so many of these cities, so go ahead and check out those videos. Go ahead and check out our channel and look for those different cities if you want to check them out specifically. Of course, if you are looking at purchasing real estate in the state of Colorado, we're going to throw that phone number below, right there. Give us a call. Doesn't matter time or day, we are there to answer your call. Until next time, we love you. Bye.